I'm Shawn Graff. I'm with something called the CISA. Anybody ever heard of CISA? Woo! I don't have any dragon pants on today, but I'll try to channel the director as much as I can. She's awesome, our director, Jenny Easterly. So that's the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. But I'm not going to say that again. I'm just going to say CISA because that's a lot to say. So I'm the regional director for Region 8, includes 6 states, including Utah. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our agency, just kind of where we came from, where we are, a little bit about the threat landscape. I've only got 30 minutes. This afternoon after lunch, somebody much better looking and smarter than me, Rick Gardner, one of our cybersecurity advisors, is going to talk for an hour about all the free stuff that you can get from us. A lot of free services that we provide. They're kind of prepaid. I don't know if anybody here pays taxes, but that pays my salary, which means it's a prepaid service. But a lot of really good stuff that we provide. Where's my little clicker? And I wish, anybody do Peloton? I feel like a Peloton instructor with this thing. They got the little, I didn't get my ride in this morning. All right, so a little bit about CISA. So we were kind of born, we're really one of the newest federal agencies. We're part of the Department of Homeland Security, but we were born out of an organization that was stood up back really in 2003, 2004, when the department stood up looking at critical infrastructure. We're something called infrastructure protection. And back then, we were just really looking at terrorists flying planes into buildings again or blowing up critical infrastructure, really the kinetic physical threat. But as the years progressed, and we started, continued to visit infrastructure sites, they started talking about passwords and OT systems and IT systems, and the threat really started to change over the years, and cyber became a big thing. When I first started doing this, nobody talked cyber. So we had to change and morph. All of those things we used to do on the physical side, the assessments, the training, the exercises, those things, we still do those. We never let those go because that threat is still out there. It's a little bit different now, more so from internal domestic violent extremists and criminals, less so from the international folks. So that's still there, but we now have the overlaid cyber threat that we're very concerned about. But we talk about leading the national effort to understand and reduce risk to the critical infrastructure, both cyber and physical. And really a lot of that is just connecting stakeholders in government and industry across the country with resources, capabilities, each other, information, intelligence, all of those kind of things. If you look over there on I guess it's the left side of the screen for you, you see how we kind of break down infrastructure. So we break it down into 16 different sectors. It's just a way to categorize and organize sort of at the national level what we do. You can see our mission and vision there. I think that would be very, very clear to all of you. So just to get an idea of the audience, private sector folks, raise your hand. Awesome, love you. Any federal folks? Sit in the back, please. Just kidding. State, local government? All right, good. Good cross-sector of folks. Appreciate that. Our priorities, I think, hopefully these should ring true with you. Critical infrastructure, security, and resilience. That's kind of very broad. Again, that's our foundation, is looking at the security of critical infrastructure. Industrial control systems, focused really on cybersecurity. We do a lot of work with ICS systems. We have training programs around that Rick might be able to hit later on today that you would probably be interested in. Soft target security. When we first started looking at infrastructure, we looked at really things like water and communications and transportation, the hard infrastructure. But as the threat changed and people started going to malls and shooting people and schools and houses of worship and open air venues, we really had to change as well. That became a sector of critical infrastructure for us. So we go to houses of worship, we go to schools, we do physical security assessments there, we go to large events, think Cheyenne Frontier Days. Anybody know what Cheyenne Frontier Days is? That is awesome if you've never been there. It's pretty awesome. But we work with soft targets as well. Climate resilience, impacts of climate change, extreme weather on critical infrastructure, very important out here in the West with the drought and the extreme weather, wildfires. We look at those things. In terms of federal cybersecurity, we have authorities over the federal.gov network, so that's really in the executive branch of the federal government. And then when it comes to large-scale incidents at the federal level, we lead what's called the asset response. So there was something very boring that you might think is boring called PPD 41, talked about how the federal government would respond to incidents, and we got the responsibility to focus on the asset. FBI does law enforcement, OD&I does the intelligence aspect, but we're focused on the actual asset. And then partnerships. We can't do any of this alone, so I've got 3 people now in the entire state of Utah to work for cybersecurity for CISA. It's a pretty big state for 3 people. So one of Rick's primary jobs is to work with all of you, partner with you, provide you our resources, get information back from you, all that sharing. So I think one of the unique things about CISA is our reliance on those partnerships, working with private sector and all levels of government. And it's fun. It's probably one of the most fun places to work in the federal government. Just a little bit about that. I mentioned Region 8, so I'm based in Lakewood, Colorado. That's just west of Denver. I've got a regional staff there, but I have people in all 6 of those states, kind of a similar laydown. I've got cybersecurity advisors. If you're looking for physical security, I have physical security advisors. I have chemical security inspectors and people who work communications, emergency communications. So if you're in any one of those areas, you may be interested in connecting. Services. I'm just going to hit this briefly because I want you to come back at 1:30 and listen to Rick talk in detail about the assessments and other things we provide. But vulnerability assessments, again, physical and cybersecurity advisors, they'll come in, they'll take a look at your facility, they'll analyze the potential threats, vulnerabilities, talk you through some of your security measures, security plans. You could be very immature to very mature, and we've got a capability to do those. That's kind of the bread and butter of what our security advisors do. We also offer a lot of exercises and a lot of training. We do a lot of them virtually. So we do, I think, 4 or 5 webinars every month that are open to anybody, whether it's, we've done insider threat, we've done active shooter, we do, you name it, we've done it any one of our pieces, and you can get signed up. You'll have contact information here. You can get signed up for any of those things. I mentioned outreach and information sharing. So we do a lot of outreach, events like this, webinars I mentioned, conferences, and then the information sharing piece, connecting you to various pieces of information. If you're on our distribution list for CISA, you get a ton of stuff from us. We send out a lot of stuff, and we're working through how to improve that process. But you might have gotten 3 or 4 emails just this morning on different things that are happening. It's really important, I think, if you're in this business to be on our distribution list, we put out known vulnerabilities. We're not focused on one type of system or asset. We're looking across the entire industry and really trying to inform you on the most critical things that are happening every day, unfortunately. Direct technical assistance, that's just like it sounds. Incident support operations, so if you're familiar with the National Response Framework, we do what's called Emergency Support Function 2 at the federal level, which is communications, and 14, which is the cross-sector business and infrastructure. So again, bringing the private sector and critical infrastructure into a national or regional incident response. And then special events. I mentioned things like Cheyenne Frontier Days, but we also support things like the presidential inauguration or conventions. Super Bowls. We send people out before the Super Bowls, during the Super Bowls, do security assessments, both on the physical and cyber side and communications. So really there's no problem that we're not interested in or sector that we're not interested in. I want Rick to stand up real quick just in case you have too much lunch and can't come back. Rick is my cybersecurity advisor here in the great state of Utah, and come visit him if you're not going to come back at 1:30. He will be able to connect you with what you need. All right, so put this in here so that you have the contact information of my team. Andre Mouton got an extra S in his email address. If you're really paying attention, you saw that. I don't know, it's not supposed to be there, so just ignore it. And then here's some additional contact information. Okay, cyber threat landscape. None of this is going to be, I hope, a big surprise to you. I just want to take a drink, and then I want to tell you about, so we put out this Shields Up message before Russia invaded Ukraine. I think anybody remember looking at our Shields Up? We're like, seriously, folks, get your shields up. We haven't seen a lot of the attacks that we thought we might see. That doesn't mean the threat's not still there. It's not still as significant. If you've seen what's been going on in Russia and Ukraine, Russia's not having a great deal of success that they thought they were going to have. So you might think that they might get more desperate. Right? So we don't know what the future may hold with Russia and what they may try to do in the United States, but obviously we're still concerned about the potential for them to launch cyber attacks into the United States, both from their state-sponsored assets and then cyber criminal groups that are aligned with Russia. You've seen the increase in ransomware attacks. They're getting more destructive. They're getting more prevalent. I got hit up about attacks on the federal government, and I said it's not just the federal government. Everybody from mom and pop shops all the way up to Fortune 100 companies are getting attacked on a regular basis. So we all need to have our shields up, and it all starts with the individual. We know that other nation-state adversaries are investing significantly in their cyber offensive capabilities and defensive capabilities. Hacking tools. I mean, any one of you, I'm sure, could get online and very easily find ransomware as a service. Anybody with basic capabilities can get on and buy their own ransomware. So they're just becoming more prevalent, more easy to use. We're working, as I mentioned, across the federal government, state, local governments to try to address that threat. But again, it's that collaboration. It's that information sharing. So it's very different, from the physical aspects of threats, that an incident or a cyber attack that happens at a small mom and pop water facility could have national consequences because of the threat actor and because of the vector and because of the malware that's being used, right? So that may be a test, and it's very quickly going to spread across the country to something more significant. So we want to know about those things, and I'm going to give you an email address that we want you to report those things to. And we may not come back to you and say, hey, thanks for your report. Great, here's what we're doing with it, because we get a lot of them. But know that the big gonculator back in Washington, D.C., we're assessing, we're analyzing, we're trying to make a determination of whether or not that's something that the federal government needs to be getting involved in, and then get information out to all of you in the community to take action. This is hard, turning pages and flipping slides and everything else. Why can't you flip my slides for me? I mean, what? No, just kidding, Rick. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we're offering that are kind of new to help out. One of them is the Cybersecurity Grant Program for state, local, tribal, territorial governments. First of its kind, just came out. We just came out with a notice of funding opportunity, I guess a month ago, 2 months ago. It's closing in November, but state governments can apply for cybersecurity grants. It's run similar to the way the FEMA grants are run, if you're familiar with that. There's an application process that is open and closes on November 15th. So if you're part of state government or local government, hopefully you've heard of this. If you haven't, again, reach out to me, reach out to Rick. We'll get you connected, get you as much information as you can, but you can Google Cybersecurity Grant Program and find a lot of stuff. First year, we're really looking at basic capabilities, getting folks to establish a cybersecurity plan, do some assessments, get a really good baseline, and there's going to be 3 more years following this of funding from the federal government for cybersecurity. I think it's 80%, Rick, has to go to local governments, which is really great because we know there's a significant deficit in resource capabilities at the local governments. Think county, think city, and so they need it. They need the support and help. The other thing, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So I know most of you are cybersecurity professionals in here, or hackers, or just people really interested. But Cybersecurity Awareness Month is every October. I think it's, what do my notes say, 19 years now we've been doing this thing, and it's really to raise cybersecurity awareness across the country. There's an awesome toolkit on there for your awareness programs, for your training programs. We put out these basic slides. A lot of good resources on Cybersecurity Awareness Month. This year it's called See Yourself in Cyber. What we really want to do is to bring cyber all the way to the individual level, cybersecurity practices, right? So you're all practitioners, you're professionals, you know not to click on that email, you know to update your software, you know all that stuff. But we want grandma and grandpa to know the same thing. And we're kind of relying on all of you in this room to help us with that, because really, I think they said 90% of ransomware attacks start with a phishing email, whether they're successful or not. I don't know if the statistic is right. We get new ones all the time. But that's, grandma and grandpa sitting at the computer, or, your least trained employee sitting at the computer going, yeah, that looks right. Let me click on that. So this month is all about everyone being able to see themselves in cyber and promote cybersecurity. This is one where it really takes a village, right? It really takes the entire nation. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the action steps, the basic action steps we're asking you to promote at the end here. I mentioned that report a cyber issue deal. This is very easy, CISA.gov. Report opens up a little email thing, and you can report your cyber incidents. Or just call Rick anytime, day or night, on the weekend. We won't even give him overtime. And this is the Cybersecurity Awareness website, so you'll have that to click on. Again, a ton of resources. Shouldn't be any malware on that site, but I'm not guaranteeing that. But go ahead and click on that link, and it'll get you to some free resources. Action steps. So these are pretty straightforward, but these are the 4 things that we think that if you promote to every individual across the country, will be much more secure as a nation. So multi-factor authentication, you don't have to even say that word. Just say, hey, Ma, when they ask you if you want a text message, you got to do that. Got to do that thing. I got nailed on Facebook a couple of weeks ago with that and the text message thing. Somebody got my Facebook. I hate Facebook. I know. Look, I got the suit thing on. I know I use Facebook. I'm an old guy. Okay, tease me. All right, strong passwords. That complex. It's amazing how often we find that people are still using the password. I'm sure you could. Anybody else catch anybody recently with password 123 as a password? Yeah, when we first started doing the critical infrastructure stuff, the OT systems, people would still use capital P, the one it came with, right? Didn't change it for years. Anyway, strong passwords, recognize and report phishing, and then updating your software. I have a little mnemonic I'll share with you. It's not approved by CISA, but I'll share it with you because this isn't being recorded. It's just being live streamed, which is different. Right? Nobody would record. I say, make strong attacks fail badly. Make strong attacks fail bad. Make multi-factor authentication. Does anybody think this is cool or not? Come on, I don't have a vampire costume on or not. Come on, I'm making stuff up here. Probably going to get fired. Make strong attacks fail badly. Multi-factor authentication, strong passwords, strong attacks, antivirus, so that's not in there, but I needed an A. Antivirus, fail with a PH, fail, right? Badly, backup. That's also not in there, but update your software is close enough. Make strong attacks fail badly. Good? Yes? Good? Thank you. All right, that's awesome. Thank you. You're very kind. You just want to go to lunch. I know. I get it. Okay, so that's thank you. No, I'm supposed to go to questions and answer. There's contact information. So it was great speaking with you all this morning. Remember that right after lunch, our cybersecurity advisor, I already told you, Rick's going to be here. He's going to have a ton of stuff for you, a ton of opportunities to partner with each other and partner with us. What questions? You can't leave yet. Where are you going? Any questions for me? Got to be one. Sir.
How do you see the cybersecurity kind of growing and developing over the coming years? What do you see happening there?
I could not hear that question at all. I apologize. Did you say, how do we see it changing or developing?
Yeah, what growth do you see there, improvement? How do you see the long range for the cybersecurity?
Well, what I have seen, so I've been part of the department since I left the Army in 2003. I think what I have seen is a significant improvement in the information sharing piece, and not just in the federal government, but across the industry. We're partnering with companies, the big tech companies like we never did before. So I see that as a significant improvement, but I also see things like the malware being available free on the web for any individual to download and utilize, and that's just going to continue. tying sort of the cybersecurity piece to the overall threat picture that we're looking with misinformation, disinformation, I just see a proliferation of again, bad actors continuing to use our own freedoms against us on the web, on our social media platforms, and doing things like, the big fakes, those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately going to continue to go this way, but I see that our sharing, our communication, the things we're providing is going to increase as well. Hopefully that kind of helps. Sir.
You mentioned that you're interested in many, there's like no areas you're not interested in. How does CISA define critical infrastructure?
Yeah, so the definition of critical infrastructure is in something called the National Infrastructure Protection Plan, and it's really defined as those assets and systems so vital to the United States that their destruction or incapacity would impact our way of life. So that's all the really big stuff. One of the challenges we have, again, if you think of the cyber threat versus the kinetic threat, is that may not be a critical infrastructure, but that's a critical attack, right? So that's a critical vector, that is a critical piece of malware that now I need to be very interested in. The other piece that I think we weren't thinking about in 2003, 2004 is the way of life part. I have little kids that go to elementary and junior high school, and I pray every morning when I take them to school that they're not going to get hurt. And I don't mean like fall off the playground. Anybody with kids, we never had to think about that. To me, that's way of life. That's now critical infrastructure. And so the challenge for us is, what's not critical? We do prioritize, those lifeline infrastructure, especially on the physical assessment side. We prioritize those that are going to impact the most people, but we essentially have to kind of look at all of the things that are going to impact our way of life. Go ahead.
And then I guess follow-up is you offer all these various services. You don't charge for this? Is this all like...
You already paid for it every year by April 21st. Appreciate that. Yeah, no charge. No charge, but I will tell you that we have some things that have a significant backlog in terms of requests that require maybe national level assets to come. And then we have other things. We have lots of self-serve capability, self-assessments and quick assessment. So, and that's where the human being can help you sort of determine, where you fit into that picture and how we can get you those services. I thought there was another one in the middle. No? Way back there. Oh, this is going to be hard to hear.
Which nation state poses the biggest threat to our critical?
Whichever one is attacking us right now. They're all, I mean, I think it's been very, the ODNI puts out a national threat assessment every year. This last one, and it's unclassified. Like anybody can read it. This last one had so much information, I was shocked. We would have classified that in 2004 like TS-SCI with 48 different caveats. It's totally unclassified, and they really do a good job of walking through the capabilities and intent of the nation-state actors, and they do it from sort of the kinetic national level side and the cyber side. So I would encourage you to look at that, because that'll give you more detail about where we think each one of them are. Way back there, I see the arm. I don't see the face.
First off, thank you for coming and talking here today. But I wanted to ask you, there have been some people in government positions who have left saying that we do not have, or they did not have enough support to compete against actors like China, Russia. In your personal opinion or professional, however you want to say it,
I'm not allowed to have a personal opinion, but go ahead.
do you feel like you're getting enough support and to do the job that you believe that you need to do for your mission of security for our infrastructure?
I'll Yeah, so elections falls under the government facility sector. It's a subsector under that, which is why you don't see it up there. Yeah, we work with the elections offices very closely. They have, they avail themselves of a lot of our resources. In terms of recommendations for you working with them, now if you don't already have a relationship, right now is kind of a bad time to reach out because they're busy. But after the election is over and things have been tabulated and argued about, I mean, it's just making that connection, assessing what their needs might be, and whatever you have in terms of sharing information. I mean, elections, again, are the cornerstone of our democracy, and we all have a role to play in that. So that would be my initial recommendation to you. Yes, sir.
Let's say you come and help assess our security. You find one of my employees not wearing a badge, you need to cancel all my federal contracts.
I don't have the authority to cancel your federal contract, sir. Now, our assessments are voluntary, and we on the cyber side, with what Rick does, we're not a regulatory agency. We have a small regulatory function within CISA. It's related to the physical security of chemicals. But yeah, we're not a regulatory agency from that perspective, and we provide you options for consideration, which one might be have your guys wear their badge. Might be a good idea. So yeah, I'm not planning to cancel any of your stuff. So, yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, you have to wait. Okay, you in the back that was waving. Okay, you, sir.
So, as I understand it, I've always heard it said when you compare, let's say, on the national level, on the cyber front, that America always had a greater offensive capability and we have defensive capability compared to other nation states. Is that true, or how are we going to measure up on that?
I wouldn't know. I'm not involved in cyber offensive operations. That's a different part of the government. So I wouldn't be able to provide a good assessment of that. I could guess. What's that? Compared to other nation states? I mean, I'm not really willing to make a comparison. Anybody else? I think I would answer that to say I think our power grid is pretty resilient, and we've seen that based on a lot of natural disasters, not even, considering cyber attacks, with the multiple different grids we have. So I think it's just a much different situation in terms of the physical grid than they have in Ukraine. And I think I have time for one more question, and then everybody's going to lunch. I know I answered 2 years, so if there's nobody else. Okay, you get it. You get the last one.
So sometimes there's a worry about any kind of like governmental agency, how effective they will be at their job. And I guess I'm wondering, do you guys receive enough funding that you're able to like hire like the best of the best to perform your duties?
I think that we're in the same position a lot of companies are in terms of hiring cyber professionals. There's a significant gap in the number of in the cyber workforce, and so we face the same issues. We've just gotten a new hiring system for hiring cyber professionals called the Cyber Talent Management System, which sort of opens up our ability and flexibility within the federal government. It's still not as flexible as industry. So, you might say we're competing, but I think most of my cybersecurity advisors could probably leave tomorrow for a significant increase in pay. But the mission is so important, and a lot of them are, ex-military, et cetera, and they really believe in wrapping themselves in the American flag and protecting the country. I mean, that's why I've been doing this as long as I have. So, yeah. Okay, well, thanks everybody for hanging in. Appreciate it.